Now it is part 8 of human reproduction. This is the last part of this chapter. In this last part, we will have discussion of pregnancy, embryonic development, parturition and lactation. Right. First of all, the pregnancy and embryonic development. After implantation we have discussed in the last part. After implantation, some finger-like projections will appear. After implantation, some finger-like projections will appear on the trophoblast portion of the blastocyst. And these finger-like projections, they are called chorionic villi. These finger-like projections which are formed from trophoblast, they are known as chorionic villi. So some chorionic villi will be formed. Okay, some finger-like projections will form, and these finger-like projections they will be getting surrounded by the uterine tissue as well as the maternal blood. These chorionic villi they will be surrounded by uterine tissue and maternal blood, and now this structure will form placenta. So how placenta is formed? It is explained here. So chorionic villi, they are the finger-like structures produced from trophoblast after the implantation. And these chorionic villi, these finger-like structures, they will be surrounded by uterine tissue as well as maternal blood. Okay. Now it will form the structural and functional unit called placenta. So here chorionic villi and uterine tissue they become interdigitated with each other. These chorionic villi and uterine tissue they become interdigitated with each other, and their form or that structure will lead to the formation of placenta. So placenta it is the structural and functional unit, or it is a connection between the developing embryo and mother. The developing embryo or the fetus and the maternal body will be connected by this structural unit or the functional unit known as placenta. So here very clearly I have explained the formation of placenta. Now in the next slide we are going to know more about this placenta. This diagram explains how this developing embryo is getting connected with the uterus. You can see an umbilical cord here. You can see an umbilical cord. So this umbilical cord, it is the structure which helps in the transport of substances. It will help in the transport of substances to and from the embryo. So placenta will be connected. You can see this placenta. Okay. So this placenta will be connected to this embryo by umbilical cord, and umbilical cord it will help in the transport of substances to and from the embryo. Right. Now we have functions of placenta. What are the different functions performed by placenta? Placenta, first of all, it will act as a barrier between fetus and mother, because all substances will not move through this placenta. Only selected substances are capable of movement. So that is why we call it as a barrier. So placenta, first of all, it will act as a barrier between fetus and mother. And here the supply of oxygen, nutrients, etc. from mother to fetus, that is also a function of placenta. So placenta will help in supply of oxygen and nutrients from mother to fetus. So that is the second function. So first function is acting as a barrier. Second function, supply of oxygen and nutrients from mother to fetus. What about the third one? It is about the removal of carbon dioxide. So when carbon dioxide is formed in the fetus and when excretory waste is formed in the fetus, it has to be removed. And that removal of carbon dioxide and excretory waste, it will happen through the placenta. So placenta will also help in the removal of carbon dioxide and waste. Another important role of placenta is the endocrine role. Placenta can act as an endocrine gland. Placenta is capable of producing hormones. So whenever hormones are produced, we can call it as an endocrine organ or endocrine structure. Our placenta is having an endocrine role because it will secrete human chorionic gonadotropin, which is also known as HCG. In short, we can call it as HCG. Another hormone is human placental lactogen. We can call it as HPL. Then estrogens, progestogens, and relaxin. So all these hormones are produced by placenta. So placenta has got an endocrine role, or placenta will produce a set of hormones. Here relaxin is also produced from ovary. Another point regarding these hormones, in the case of we human beings, in the case of female, three hormones are there which are produced only during pregnancy. What are the three hormones produced only during pregnancy? They are HCG, HPL and relaxin. You can note down three hormones produced only during pregnancy are HCG, HPL and the last one called relaxin. Is it clear? So these are the functions of placenta. Right. We move on to the next topic. It is also about this placenta and also the hormones that are produced during pregnancy period. During pregnancy period, majority of the hormones will be at a high level in mother. So during pregnancy, the level of other hormones like estrogen, progestogen, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, they are all in the increased level in maternal blood. In mother's blood, all these hormones are at a high level. And increased production of these hormones, it is essential for the support of the fetal growth and also for all those metabolic changes in the mother and for maintenance of pregnancy. So for maintaining pregnancy and for all the metabolic changes happening in the mother, the hormones are necessary. So that is why all these hormones are found to be at a high level in a pregnant mother, in a pregnant lady, right? Now we move on to another aspect. Another point is regarding the inner cell mass. I told you about the inner cell mass in blastula. This inner cell mass, it is a structure which develop into the embryo. Inner cell mass will differentiate into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. And in between the ectoderm and endoderm, a mesoderm layer will be also formed. So these are the three germ layers formed during embryonic development. So from which part these embryonic layers are formed? These embryonic layers are formed from the inner cell mass. So inner cell mass will give rise to three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Outer ectoderm, inner endoderm and in between there is a mesoderm germ layer. And what is the role of these germ layers? These germ layers, they are determined or they are to form tissues and organs in an adult. So all those tissues and organs developed in our body, they come out from or they are developed from these germ layers. So what is the fate of these germ layers? These germ layers will give rise to all the tissues and all the organs in an adult body. Is it clear? So inner cell mass will form or it will develop into the germ layers and germ layers will develop into the tissues and organs. Right. So now we have the development of the fetus for explanation now. As you know, the gestation in the case of human being will be 9 months. We have 9 months of gestation. And these 9 months of gestation, we can divide it into trimesters. What do you mean by a trimester? A set of 3 months. So first trimester will be first month, second month and third month. Second trimester, by that we mean 4th, 5th and 6th. And by the third trimester, we mean 7th, 8th and 9th month. Okay, so in the developmental process of fetus or in the gestation, in the case of human being, we have 3 trimesters. In one trimester, there will be 12 weeks. Is it clear? So here in this picture, you can see the first trimester is represented or first 12 weeks represented here. Okay, this is after first month, the embryo after first month, this is after 2 months, and this is after 3 months. So after completion of the 3 months, we can say the first trimester is over. What are the different changes happening in the fetus or in the embryo during this development, during this first trimester? It is explained here. So, in the first month, the embryonic heart will be formed. What is the change in the first month? Embryonic heart will be formed. There will be pumping of blood, or you can see the, or you can hear the heartbeat in the first month itself. Embryonic heart will be formed in the first month. And by the end of the second month, I repeat, by the end of the second month, fetus will develop limbs and digits. So limbs and digits, I mean the rudimentary limbs and digits. Rudimentary because they are not that much developed. So rudimentary or underdeveloped limbs and digits you can see by the end of the second month. And at the end of the first trimester, when the first trimester is over, most of the organ systems are formed. So most of the organ systems will be developed. And you can also see the development of the genital organs after the end of first trimester. After the first trimester. Now we are going to discuss the second trimester. Ready? So second trimester, or you can call it as after 24 weeks. When second trimester is over, there will be completion of 24 weeks. So second trimester mean 4th month, 5th month and 6th month. Is it clear? 4th, 5th and 6th month during the development of fetus, we can call it as the second trimester. So, what are the changes happening to the fetus now? In the 5th month, the first fetal movements of the fetus and appearance of the hair on the head you can observe. So, first fetal movements, fetus will begin to move and there will be appearance of hair on the head in 5th month. Okay, and by the end of the second trimester, when second trimester is over, I mean after completion of 24 weeks, the body will be covered with a fine hair, eyelids will separate, eyelashes are formed. So these are the conditions happening after completion of the second trimester. So now the second trimester is over, or 6 months we have completed. The development is over, 6 months completed. Now we move to the third trimester. Third trimester, when it is completed, it will be completion of 36 weeks. So it will be 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy. We can call it as the third trimester. Is it clear? Now, at the end of the third trimester, when the third trimester is over, we can say 9 months are over. Now the fetus is fully developed and it is ready for delivery. So a fully developed fetus will be formed by the end of the third trimester. Ready? So all these changes of features during the different months you have to by heart because you have to prepare a table, then only you can answer these questions coming from development of the fetus or about the trimesters mentioned in your textbook. Now we move to the last topic, parturition and lactation. What do you mean by parturition? The process of delivery of a young one, that is called parturition. Delivery of a fully developed fetus is called parturition. So, parturition, it is followed by a vigorous contraction of the uterus. At the end of the pregnancy, there will be vigorous contraction of the uterus, and as a result of it, there will be expulsion and delivery or delivery of the fetus. So, vigorous contraction of the uterus, which leads into the expulsion or delivery of the fetus, that is what is called parturition. You can see in this picture, as a result of that delivery process, the fetus is coming out. Now, the process of delivery of the fetus or childbirth, in simple terms, you can say that childbirth is called parturition. So, parturition, it is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. So, there is involvement of our nervous system and our endocrine system. So, there is a crucial role played by the neuroendocrine system for parturition. Now, in the next slide, you can see the events. The signal for parturition will originate from a fully developed fetus and placenta. I repeat, when the fetus and placenta, when they are fully developed, not only the fetus but also placenta, when they are fully developed, some signals will be sent. These signals are actually some factors. So there will be a release of some factors from a fully developed fetus and placenta. And this will cause mild uterine contractions. So these signals will cause mild uterine contractions. And these mild uterine contractions, we can call it as fetal ejection reflex. So what is fetal ejection reflex? In simple words, we can call it as mild uterine contractions. Mild uterine contractions as a result of a fully developed fetus and placenta which produce some signal. So these mild uterine contractions, you can call it as fetal ejection reflex. So this fetal ejection reflex, it will trigger the release of oxytocin. It will release what? It will release oxytocin from maternal pituitary. Maternal pituitary is the pituitary of the mother. So from the pituitary of mother, not from fetus, from pituitary of the mother, there will be release of oxytocin. So what will trigger the release of oxytocin? This fetal ejection reflex will trigger the release of oxytocin from maternal pituitary. Now oxytocin has released. Okay. Now what happens? Now you can see this oxytocin will act on the uterine muscles. This oxytocin released from maternal pituitary, it will act on the uterine muscles and it will cause strong uterine contractions. And there will be stronger contractions now. Initially there was only mild contraction, but when oxytocin is reaching them, there will be stronger uterine contractions. So this will continue. These contractions will release more oxytocin from maternal pituitary. And when more oxytocin is coming, more contractions will occur. So stronger and stronger contractions will happen when more and more oxytocin is coming from maternal pituitary. So these contractions will go stronger and stronger, and finally it will result in expulsion of the baby out of the uterus or out of the birth canal. What is birth canal? The cervix and vagina put together, we can call it as a birth canal. So through the birth canal, cervix and vagina put together, you can call it as the birth canal. So through the birth canal, there will be expulsion of the baby. This is what is called parturition. So parturition happens by the effect of oxytocin. So the role of oxytocin is very important here. Okay, so everything started with signal coming out from a fully developed fetus and placenta. It released some factors that will be the signal for mild uterine contractions. And mild uterine contractions, it triggered the release of oxytocin. And once oxytocin is released, the contractions of the uterus will become stronger and stronger. More contractions, more oxytocin will be released. So the contraction as well as release of oxytocin will increase in such a manner that finally it will result in expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal, and that results in parturition. Is it clear? So here mild uterine contractions are very important. That is called fetal ejection reflex. Okay, that point is very important. So I have explained in detail what is parturition. Okay, now now the final step in the reproductive event will be lactation. What do you mean by lactation? Mammals, they are all provided with functional mammary glands, and mammary glands, they become functional only during the pregnancy, and they will start producing milk towards the end of the pregnancy by a process called lactation. There are two hormones involved in this lactation process. One is oxytocin. Oxytocin is a milk ejection hormone. Oxytocin is a milk ejection hormone, whereas prolactin, it helps in release of milk. So here, milk is produced during initial days of lactation. That is different. That is called colostrum. So you should be familiar with this term colostrum. What is colostrum? Colostrum is the milk produced during initial days of lactation. And colostrum, it is essential for the newborn because it contains several antibodies, and it is absolutely essential for the resistance or for the immunity of the newborn. So the newborn, it gets immunity by antibodies that are present in colostrum. Colostrum contains a set of antibodies. Mainly, antibody A or immunoglobulin A will be present in colostrum. So that is why doctors will insist that we should give the first milk to the newborn. So colostrum is very important. So feeding of the young one initially during the initial days after delivery is very important. Okay, so here two questions you can expect. One is, what is the role of oxytocin? Oxytocin, it is helping for parturition, and also it will help for ejection of the milk. Another question regarding why doctors say feeding during initial days is necessary or why it is important. For that question we have to answer about the colostrum. Our answer should be with colostrum having antibodies in it. So with this, we finish our chapter 1, human reproduction. I have discussed in detail all the topics of NCRT. So I'll be back with some questions later on. So for the time being, it's goodbye from Stephen Classes.